scrollers, welcome to part 4 of the Basic Intarsia Sea Shell series. In part 3 we went over some of the vocabulary I'll be using as I trace out, prepare, and cut out piece number 2. So enjoy the video and let's get busy. Now that we've got our first piece cut out, the first thing we need to do is get the pattern off. We really don't need it there anymore, so we'll just simply give it a yank. That's the beautiful part about putting the tape down first and then gluing the pattern on top. Everything comes off really nice and cleanly. We do want to keep this as piece number 1, so we'll go ahead and mark a number 1 on here. I know a lot of people are probably cringing at the sight of that, putting the marking on the front of the piece, but it's all going to be sanded down and that pencil mark is going to come right off later on. Most people mark it on the back, but if you're using a lot of pieces, you know, you're constantly picking the piece up, turning it over, so on and so forth to see what piece number you have. On this pattern it really doesn't matter. We've only got 10 pieces that we're dealing with, so it's not hard to keep track of, but on more complicated projects it is. I like to make sure my piece isn't going to wiggle around too much while I'm trying to trace it, because I want the patterns to stay pretty much where it is. So I simply take some blue tape. You can use masking tape, scotch tape, whatever you have handy. Make sure it's lined up on the lines real well. Okay, there we go. That looks better. Make that nice and tight, and then put your piece on the wood first and then pull it as you're adjusting it. And there we go. We have a piece it could probably use another piece of tape. As you can see here, when I cut it, it's not actually perfect. And that's going to be hard to make perfect on anything you cut, is following that line and not having any wiggles in it. That's where the benefit of the tracing comes in. So let me go ahead and put in the tracing paper for piece number 2. I'll just pick it up a little bit, slide it under the original piece of wood. And again, I don't want the tracing paper to slide around at all. So I just add a couple little pieces, give it a little pull. And you want to make sure that you don't cover up the lines you're going to be tracing. So here I'm just going to go ahead, and the first thing I want to do is cut this critical part. Now that we know what critical is, we'll just go ahead and keep the pencil as vertical as possible and on the wood, and let the wood tell us where the line needs to be. So this way when we cut it, we're actually cutting what we've already cut out. So there's no better line to tell us exactly how to make that curve. Now we'll go ahead and do the non-critical. And we'll just go ahead and draw around here. Whoops, I put a hole in it. That's no good. Well, we're not going to worry about it. This is non-critical. You might think this is a critical line, and looking at the pattern it is. But because I don't have a piece of wood there yet, it's still a non-critical line, so it doesn't matter how well. Here, I'll even come off a little bit for demonstration purposes. Okay, well that wasn't very good, but that's okay, you get the point. So now I've actually changed the shape of this a little bit. It doesn't matter, because when I trace this piece out, I'm going to be marking to the wood. So piece number 3 will come out perfectly to match piece number 2. Let's go ahead and put our grain direction mark on here, and we'll put a number 2 on here so we know that pattern's for number 2. Before I remove the pattern, I'm going to do just a couple more little things here due to the fact we have the critical cut in here. Our critical cut ends here and ends here. So I also want to indicate this is a critical cut with just a little red marker here, a little red line, so that while I'm cutting my mind doesn't wander, and I lose the fact that I'm actually cutting a critical cut. It just is a mental reminder as I'm cutting. It really works well. And take it over to the saw and cut it out. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you how to apply the pattern again. It wasn't that difficult. I'm sure after what you've already seen, you'll be able to do that without any more assistance. Okay, now that our wood piece is all ready to go, we're over here at the saw. Before I actually start cutting, two things I want to do before I turn the saw on. First is make sure my tension is good, and I have this little setup block that I simply took a scrap piece of wood, paralleled my blade to the table, and cut one little slice in it to assure that my blade is straight. And I just use this all the time now because I know as long as my blade slides in there nice and easy like that, my blade's straight, so I don't have any other adjustments to make. Well, let's go ahead and start with the cutting. I'm going to start from this end going this way, following my red line. I'm going to do the critical cut first because I just like to get them out of the way. That way if I mess up, I haven't cut the whole piece out. So we'll do that first. I'm going to make this cut in real time, so you'll hear the saw noise. I'm sorry about that, but I want you to see how I actually make this critical cut. The rest of it will be no big deal. Anybody can do that. So here we go. Now that I'm at my start point, what I like to do is just make a little hole there so that I can bring my blade in and line it up perfectly to where I want. Again, on these critical cuts, you want to stay just off the line on the outside. So as I come around, I want to follow this little bump in the line here and follow this line as perfectly as I possibly can. So I actually started a little bit wrong there because I wasn't using my magnifying glass. I really need to do it. I thought I could do it without it, but obviously I can't. So yeah, I'm getting old. My eyes aren't quite as good as they used to be, and these little magnifying glasses, boy, they are my savior when it comes to cutting. I probably couldn't cut without them. Yeah, much better. Stay off the line just a hair. I can tell you right now, because of the way I started off, trying to do this with the video and everything at the same time, I'm going to have some gaps we're going to have to repair. But that's okay, that's what this video is for. I hope you can hear me over the saw. Just taking my time, I'm nice and relaxed. And we're just cutting away, following our little line, staying off of it a little bit. Oops, see, I goofed there. I went in a little bit too far. I didn't stay outside the line. I actually went into the line a little bit. It's what you want to try to avoid, but it's going to happen, so don't kick yourself over it. It's not a huge deal. We can always repair this. Okay, there we go. Take it off of the wood. And there's our first critical cut. Okay, now let's go see, before I cut the rest of it out, we're going to see how well it fits up. As you can see, I didn't do a very good job of cutting this because of trying to do it while videotaping at the same time. It's just not something I'm used to yet or very good at, obviously. So what we'll do is we'll make the next video, part 5, on how to actually fix this to where we've got a much cleaner gap there. This gap is just not acceptable. I could cut another piece out, but I was going to show you guys how to repair gaps anyway, so this is as good opportunity as any. So we'll see you in video number 5 where we repair this.